I installed cameras around my house for peace of mind. Living alone in a quiet suburb, I wanted an extra layer of security. Something that would alert me to movement when I wasn't home, or when I was. The cameras were motion-activated and sent notifications to my phone whenever they picked something up. It was a good system, reliable, accurate. Until it wasn't. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed on my nightstand. The bright screen cut through the darkness, displaying a message from the security app. Motion detected in the living room. I squinted, heart already beating a little faster. Maybe a shadow passed by the window, or the system had glitched. But as I opened the live feed, the room appeared just as I had left it. Dark, empty, still. Nothing moved. Then another notification came through. Motion detected in the bedroom. My bedroom. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. I wasn't moving. I was lying in bed, holding my phone, my breath caught in my throat. But something had triggered the camera inside my room. Slowly, I turned my head to look around. The only light came from my phone screen. Nothing stirred in the shadows. The door was shut. The windows were locked. But something inside me screamed that I wasn't alone. I forced myself to check the camera feed again. The screen flickered as the app reloaded. Then I saw it. The closet door. It had been open a crack before. Now it was wide open. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My mind raced through every logical explanation, but none of them made sense. Had I left it open? No. I always shut it before bed. Had something fallen inside, nudging it open? Impossible, I'd have heard it. Another notification came through. Motion detected in the hallway. I scrambled up, heart pounding, phone clutched in my hand. I swiped to the hallway camera. The footage was grainy in the dark, but I could see movement. A shifting shape just outside my bedroom door. Someone was there. I barely registered the weight of my body as I bolted across the room, locking the door before I even processed what I was doing. My hands shook as I backed away. The only sound was my own heavy breathing. Then the doorknob turned. It was slow, deliberate, as if whoever was on the other side wanted me to know they were there. I opened the app again, my fingers trembling. The hallway feed flickered, refreshed. The figure was gone. But my bedroom camera sent another notification. Motion detected in the closet. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I turned my head ever so slightly toward the open closet. Darkness yawned inside, impossibly deep. Then, just as my eyes adjusted, I saw something move. A shape, a figure, hunched, waiting. I dropped the phone and ran. I ran for the window. The lock stuck for a moment, my shaking hands fumbling to unlatch it. The doorknob behind me rattled again, harder this time. A sharp, deliberate twist. Someone was inside. The window groaned as I shoved it open, cold air rushing in. I didn't think, I just moved, throwing one leg over the sill, then the other. My foot slipped on the shingles of the roof outside, my balance nearly giving out, but I caught myself, gripping the frame. The bedroom door shuddered violently. A dull thud. Another. Then silence. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I inched along the roof, my bare feet aching against the rough surface. My mind was a blur of terror, my body running on pure instinct. The cameras. The cameras had seen it before I did. But what had they seen? A shadow? Person? Something worse? I reached the edge of the roof and looked down. The ground wasn't far, maybe 10 feet. I could jump. I had to. Then my phone buzzed from inside my pocket. I flinched so hard I almost slipped. My fingers fumbled for the device, swiping it open without thinking. The security app was still running. A new notification stared back at me. Motion detected in the living room. I hesitated, my breath hitching in my throat. The living room? That meant. I switched to the live feed. The screen loaded, and for a moment, all I saw was the empty, dimly lit space. The couch, the coffee table, the hallway leading to my bedroom. Everything was still. Then, from the left side of the frame, something stepped into view. My stomach clenched. My vision blurred for a second, my pulse hammering against my ribs. It was me. I was standing in my own living room. The figure was identical, same hair, same clothes, even holding a phone in one hand. But something was wrong. The way it moved. Too smooth. Too deliberate. His head tilted slightly, as if listening. Then, on the screen, it turned. And looked straight into the camera. I sucked in a sharp breath. My hands clenched around my phone. My body frozen in place. It was watching me. No, watching the camera. Watching the version of me that was outside, clutching the phone, standing on the edge of the roof. Then it smiled. A slow, unnatural stretch of lips, like it was testing the motion. My stomach turned. I took a step back, my foot catching on the gutter. I swayed, wind rushing past me, panic clawing up my throat. And then, without breaking eye contact, the thing inside my house raised a hand. It lifted its arm, moving with eerie precision, fingers curling toward the front door. And then, as if it knew I was watching, it unlocked it. The click of the deadbolt echoed through the camera feed. My front door swung open. The night outside gaped like a hungry mouth, an open invitation. I didn't wait. I turned and jumped. The impact sent a jolt through my legs, pain lancing up my spine, but I barely registered it. I scrambled to my feet, sprinting for the street. My heart thundered in my ears. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. But I knew. I knew it was watching me. I could feel it, standing in the doorway, smiling, waiting. And as I ran, my phone vibrated one last time. Motion detected outside. I didn't stop running. My feet pounded against the pavement, adrenaline numbing the pain in my legs. The neighborhood was silent, the houses dark. No one was awake. No one would help me. I reached the end of the street, gasping for breath, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone. I needed to call someone. Anyone. The police. A friend. But when I unlocked the screen, the security app was still open. Motion detected outside. The timestamp was fresh. Seconds ago. I hesitated. My mind screamed not to look. But my body, running on some twisted, morbid instinct, betrayed me. My thumb tapped the notification. The screen loaded. The camera at the front of my house showed the empty porch, the open doorway yawning behind it. The streetlights cast a dim glow, stretching long shadows across the pavement. Then something stepped into view. Me. The same version of me from inside the house. It walked out onto the porch, slow and casual, as if testing its limbs. Its head tilted up slightly, as if sniffing the air. Then it turned toward the camera, turned toward me. I choked on a breath, my grip tightening around the phone. The screen flickered, distorting for a moment before stabilizing. And that's when it moved. It stepped off the porch, onto the street, towards me. A cold wave of terror rolled over me. My feet refused to move. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. The thing, my copy, walked with calm, deliberate strides. No urgency, no hesitation, but it was covering the distance too fast, too smooth, like it was gliding. I forced my legs to work. I spun around and ran. Street after street blurred past me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to keep moving. Houses, driveways, parked cars. Everything stretched into a dizzying haze. But then, a shadow, ahead, a figure standing under a flickering street lamp. Waiting. My breath hitched. My body skidded to a halt, my lungs burning. I took a shaky step back. The figure took a step forward. Light caught its face. My face. A second one. Identical. It smiled. I turned to run the other way, but another figure stepped out from behind a car. Me. Another one. And another. They emerged from the darkness, from alleyways, from the gaps between houses, moving in perfect silence, perfect unison. All of them were me. My stomach twisted, my vision blurred. The world tilted beneath me. The closest one, the one from my house, took another step. It raised a hand and pointed at me. A simple gesture. Command. And the others obeyed. They moved. All at once. I ran. But deep down I knew. I wouldn't make it. They were already inside. I don't remember how far I ran. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But I didn't stop. I didn't dare. The streets stretched endlessly ahead of me, empty and unfamiliar in the dim glow of streetlights. My own neighborhood had twisted into something alien, something wrong. And behind me, always behind me, I heard footsteps. Not hurried, not rushed, just steady, calculated. I didn't look back. I turned a corner, nearly tripping over myself, and spotted a gas station up ahead. Bright, open. A single car parked outside. A lifeline. I sprinted for the door, my fingers slamming against the glass. It was unlocked. I shoved my way inside, gasping for breath, and nearly collapsed against the counter. The cashier, a tired-looking guy in his 40s, blinked at me. You good, man?" "No," I wheezed. My head whipped toward the entrance, expecting to see them. But the street outside was empty. My heart was still hammering, my body trembling with leftover adrenaline. I turned back to the cashier. "Please, call the police." The guy frowned. "Why? What happened?" I swallowed hard. What could I say? That I was being chased by myself? That there were dozens of me walking the streets, moving like shadows? He was already giving me the look. That polite, wary skepticism. I gripped the counter. "Just please. Someone broke into my house." I ran. I think they followed me. That got him moving. He reached for the phone under the register. Dialing. I let out a shaky breath and turned toward the security monitors behind him. The gas station had cameras. I stepped closer, watching the feeds. The parking lot, the aisles, the road outside. First, everything looked normal. Then, a figure stepped into view. Me, walking slowly past the gas pumps, heading toward the entrance. My breath caught in my throat. The cashier spoke into the phone, but I barely heard him. Another figure stepped into frame. Then another. They came from the shadows, from behind cars, from the empty lot across the street. I counted 5. No, 6. More were coming. A cold, suffocating terror clamped around my chest. I stumbled backward. "They're here." The cashier frowned. "Who?" I pointed at the monitors, my voice barely above a whisper. "Them." He turned, his brow furrowed. "What are you talking about? There's no one there." I blinked. The screens were empty. The parking lot, the road, the gas pumps. Nothing. No one. But I had seen them. I knew they were there. I spun toward the windows, expecting to see their faces pressed against the glass. But the lot was empty, dead silent. The cashier sighed, muttering something under his breath. "Dude, you need to sit down. You're—" The lights flickered. I froze. The store went silent. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights, the hum of the refrigerators, gone. The air shifted. And then, I saw the reflection in the glass door. Dozens of figures, standing behind me, not moving, not breathing, just watching. My mouth opened to scream, but before I could make a sound, the lights cut out. Darkness swallowed everything. It started with the hallway camera. I'd installed security cameras all over my apartment after a break-in months ago. Nothing had happened since, but I kept them running just in case. They were motion-activated and saved short clips when something moved. Last night, at 3:12 a.m., I got a notification. Motion detected in the hallway. I opened the app. The video loaded. First, everything seemed normal. Just the dim hallway, my bedroom door slightly ajar. Then, slowly, the door swung open. My stomach clenched. The room beyond was dark. No movement. No one there. But something had triggered the camera. I rewound the footage. Watched again. The door definitely moved, but there was nothing visible pushing it open. I told myself it was a draft. The AC kicking in. Some logical explanation. Then another notification popped up. Motion detected in the living room. I hesitated. A cold feeling crawled up my spine. I switched to the living room camera. The footage loaded. The couch. The coffee table. The TV screen reflecting faint light. Everything looked normal. Then, barely noticeable, a shadow passed by the couch. Quick. Too quick. I almost thought I imagined it. I rewound the footage, paused, played it back in slow motion. The shadow moved across the floor, cutting through the faint light from the window. But there was nothing casting it. No source, no body, just the shadow. Then something worse happened. I rewound the hallway footage again, trying to make sense of it, trying to tell myself it was nothing. But this time, when the door swung open, closed itself again. I hadn't noticed it before, hadn't seen it, but on the second watch it was clear. The door opened, waited, then, as if something changed its mind, it swung shut. I didn't sleep after that. But the real horror came the next night. Because at 3:12 a.m., another notification popped up. Motion detected in the bedroom. I sat up so fast my head spun. The room was dark, eerily still. My heart pounded as I unlocked my phone, hesitating before tapping the notification. The video loaded. First, there was nothing. Just my bedroom, bathed in shadows. My bed, my nightstand, the slightly ajar closet door. Then, slowly, the blankets on my bed shifted. My breath caught in my throat. I was looking at the live feed of my own room, but I hadn't moved. I wasn't tossing or turning. I was lying completely still. And yet, the blankets pulled tight, as if someone or something was climbing onto the bed. I slapped the light switch. The brightness flooded the room, and I twisted around, scanning every inch of space. Nothing. No one. I was alone. But I knew what I saw. The notification wasn't a glitch. The motion was real. I checked under the bed, the closet, the hallway. Nothing was out of place. No signs of an intruder. I sat on the edge of my bed, my mind racing. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe I was seeing things because I was sleep-deprived. Then my phone buzzed again. Another motion alert. My stomach dropped. I opened the app with trembling fingers, my pulse roaring in my ears. This time it was the hallway camera. I tapped the notification. The feed loaded, and I saw myself walking into the hallway. I stared, frozen, as my figure moved across the screen. I was barefoot, wearing the same pajamas, my hair slightly disheveled. But I was still sitting in bed. I turned, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The room was empty. No one had left. But the footage said otherwise. I rewound it, played it back. At 3:12 a.m., my bedroom door opened. I stepped out into the hallway. I moved toward the living room, then stopped. For a long, agonizing moment, I stood completely still, facing the camera. Then slowly my head tilted. Too far. The movement was unnatural, like my neck was bending in a way it shouldn't. My face was partially obscured by darkness, but I swore I saw my mouth stretching into a grin. Then, in a single jerky motion, my head snapped back upright, and I walked out of frame. I slammed my phone down and bolted out of bed. My bedroom door was still shut. The hallway was empty. I never left my room. But something that looked like me had. And it was still somewhere in the apartment. I stood frozen in my bedroom, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My own reflection in the dark window looked back at me, pale, wide-eyed, shaking. Something else had walked into the hallway. Something that looked like me. But I never left the room. I took a slow, shaky breath and opened the security app again. The live hallway feed loaded. The space was empty. The apartment was silent. I wasn't convinced. I switched to the living room camera. First, I saw nothing. The couch, the TV, the table, all still. Then, in the corner of the screen, movement. Something was crouched in the farthest corner of the room, just out of reach of the dim glow from the streetlights outside. A shape, small, twisted. It was watching the camera. I could barely see its face, but I knew it was there. Knew it was looking directly at me through the screen. Then, impossibly, I watched as it crawled backward, not walking, not turning, just retreating into the shadows like a video playing in reverse. And then, the bedroom camera sent a new notification. Motion detected in the bedroom. My breath stopped. I didn't want to look. I had to look. The feed flickered and loaded. My bed was empty. I was gone. But I was right there, standing in the room, phone in hand. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then, slowly, my closet door, only slightly open before, creaked wider. I turned my head toward it in real life. It was open, just a crack. I hadn't touched it. I looked back at the screen. The closet door swung the rest of the way open. Darkness yawned inside. Then the camera glitched. Static. A distorted image for half a second. And when it came back, there were two figures standing inside. I screamed. The closet was empty in front of me, but I didn't care. I bolted, threw open my bedroom door, ran into the hallway, heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't stop, didn't look. I made it to the front door, my hands fumbling with the lock. My phone vibrated violently in my grip. Another notification. Motion detected in the hallway. Right behind me. I barely twisted the knob before something touched my shoulder. I yanked the door open and stumbled into the hallway outside my apartment. The door slammed shut behind me, as if something was pushing it closed from the inside. I ran. I didn't stop running. And when I finally looked back, panting, shaking, the peephole in my door was covered by something from inside. Something watching me. Started as a normal night. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, too wired to sleep. Out of habit, I checked the security camera app. I had a few cameras set up around the apartment, one in the living room, one in the hallway, and one at the front door. Nothing unusual. The living room was empty. The hallway was still. The front door locked. I almost closed the app when the screen glitched for half a second. Just a flicker, a visual hiccup. But then the hallway feed came back and I was in it. I froze. I wasn't in the hallway. I was in bed. But the camera showed me standing there, right in the middle of the hallway, facing the living room. Motionless. My throat tightened. I watched, barely breathing, as the figure on the screen, the other me, stood completely still. The feed continued as normal. No distortion. No lag. Just me, standing there. Then, slowly, my head began to turn. Not toward the living room. Not toward the camera. Toward me. I dropped the phone. My whole body went cold. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I'd be sick. I didn't want to pick the phone back up. Didn't want to see what was happening on the screen. But I had to. Hands shaking, I reached down and grabbed the phone. The hallway feed was still playing. The other me was gone. The hallway was empty. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering in my ears. Maybe it was a glitch, corrupted recording, some kind of delay. Then a new notification popped up. Motion detected in the bedroom. I couldn't move, couldn't look, but my hand moved on its own, thumb hovering over the notification. I tapped it. The screen loaded, and then the camera switched to the bedroom feed, and I saw myself sitting on the bed, holding the phone. But unlike me, this version wasn't looking at the screen. It was looking directly into the camera, into my eyes, and then smiled. My hands turned ice cold. The thing on the screen, the other me, tilted its head slightly, its eyes locked onto mine through the camera lens. It was sitting exactly as I was, holding a phone just like mine. But its expression was wrong. I wasn't smiling, but it was. A slow, deliberate grin stretched across its face, its teeth slightly visible, like it knew something I didn't. I dropped my phone. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. I twisted my head toward the bedroom camera mounted in the corner of my ceiling, the same one that had captured the feed. My eyes darted between it and the phone lying face down on my bed. I had to check again. No, I didn't want to check again. But my body moved anyway, driven by some primal, terrified instinct. My fingers grasped the phone, heart hammering as I flipped it over and reopened the app. The screen glitched for half a second. Then the video resumed. The other me was still there, still staring directly into the camera. The grin had grown wider, too wide, almost as if its mouth was stretching beyond what was natural. Then suddenly it lifted its free hand and waved at me. I slapped the phone shut with a shaking hand and threw it across the bed. The air in the room felt heavier. thick, charged, like something else was breathing with me. I forced myself to move, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. My feet touched the cold floor, grounding me, but my head was spinning. My gut twisted with an urgent, unshakable feeling. Don't look at the camera. I didn't know why, but I knew it was a warning. A final instinct. Something deep inside screamed at me, don't check the screen again. I stood up, backing away from my bed, eyes flicking toward the hallway door. I needed to leave, get out of the apartment, just grab my keys and buzz. My phone vibrated against the sheets. I flinched. Another notification. Motion detected in the bedroom. No, 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 no. My body locked up. My hands curled into fists. I wouldn't check. I refused. But then, I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible exhale. Right behind me, my skin erupted into goosebumps. My heart stopped. The breath wasn't mine. It was slow, steady, like someone standing inches away, watching, waiting. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to think. If I turned around, if I looked at the camera, would I see it? Would I see me? I squeezed my eyes shut. The breath came again, closer this time, hot against my neck. My mind screamed at me to run, to move, but before I could, buzz. Another notification. Motion detected in the hallway. My stomach dropped. The hallway? That meant something had left the bedroom. My whole body trembled. I still hadn't turned around. I didn't want to turn around. But whatever was in that room, it wasn't there anymore. It had walked out, gone into the hall. I hesitated. Then, slowly, painfully, I turned my head toward the door. It was wide open. I hadn't opened it, but something else had. And now the hallway beyond it was dark. Too dark, like a void had swallowed everything past that threshold. I reached for my phone again, hands slick with sweat. My thumb hovered over the security app. I needed to check. I needed to see where it had gone. The hallway feed loaded. First, I saw nothing. Just a long, empty corridor leading to my front door. Then, a flicker. A glitch in the footage. For half a second, I was there. Standing at the very end of the hallway, facing away from the camera, body stiff, unmoving. Then the screen glitched again and I was gone. The hallway was empty again. My pulse roared in my ears. Something was very, very wrong. Then, I saw it. The reflection in my bedroom window. Not me. Not exactly. Something shifting just outside my field of vision. Standing right behind me, watching. And just as I sucked in a shaky breath, the bedroom camera sent its final notification. Face detected. Face detected. The words sat on my phone screen like a death sentence. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. The reflection in the window behind me was wrong, just slightly off, like a distorted version of myself, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, not mirroring my stance, not following my movements. It was watching, and it was smiling. A slow, deliberate grin stretched across its face, just like the one I had seen on the camera feed. Then, the room went cold. A sharp, biting chill pressed against my skin, like something standing right behind me, close enough to touch, close enough to whisper in my ear. Move. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to run. But I was frozen, trapped between logic and nightmare, between what I knew and what I saw. The reflection blinked. I didn't. I took a slow step forward, then another, keeping my eyes on the window, watching as the figure in the reflection stayed still, grinning wider, head tilting just a little too far. I reached the doorway. My foot touched the threshold. The air behind me shifted. Something moved. I ran. I tore down the hallway, heart slamming against my ribs. My vision blurred with panic. The air felt thick, wrong, suffocating. The hallway camera sent another notification. Motion detected. I ignored it. I didn't need to check. I knew it was behind me. I reached the front door, hands fumbling with the lock. My breath came in sharp, frantic gasps. The knob wouldn't turn. A soft tap sounded behind me. Bare feet on the hardwood floor. Closer. Right there. A quiet exhale. Not mine. I yanked the door open and stumbled into the night. Cold air slammed into me, my pulse roaring in my ears. I didn't stop, didn't look back. Not until I reached the street. I turned, gasping, sweat slick on my skin. The apartment window was dark. The door stood wide open, and in the hallway, barely visible in the dim glow of the security camera's infrared, was a shadow, standing perfectly still, watching, waiting. My phone vibrated. One final notification. Live feed disabled. Device offline. Then, the screen flickered, and before the app shut down completely, I saw one last glimpse of the bedroom camera feed. A close-up of my own face. But it wasn't me. It was still smiling. I didn't notice the folder at first. I was checking my security camera footage like I always did, skimming through the clips to make sure nothing unusual happened overnight. I lived alone in a small apartment, and while the cameras had never caught anything out of the ordinary, I liked the peace of mind they gave me. But that morning, as I scrolled through the archive, I saw something strange. A new folder, dated tomorrow. I frowned. The system automatically recorded and sorted footage by date. How could there be a folder from the future? A glitch. That was the only explanation. Some system error. Maybe the timestamp was messed up. But curiosity gnawed at me. I tapped the folder. Inside was a single video. Timestamp, 2:47 a.m. Length, 4 minutes, 12 seconds. I hesitated. I hadn't gone to bed yet. It was only 11 p.m. This recording shouldn't exist. My finger hovered over the play button. My stomach twisted with unease. I took a deep breath and tapped the screen. The footage began. The angle was from the camera in my bedroom, positioned in the corner near the ceiling. It showed my bed, the slightly open closet door, and the faint glow from my nightstand clock. I was there, lying in bed, asleep. A cold shiver ran through me. I hadn't slept yet. The air felt too still, too heavy. My sleeping form on the screen looked normal, until, at exactly 2:48 a.m., the bedroom door slowly creaked open. I paused the video. My breath hitched. I lived alone. I rewound the footage, turned the volume up, played it again. The door opened on its own. No sound of footsteps. No shadow moving in the hallway. Just the door inching open, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then, at 2:49 a.m., movement. A figure stepped into the room. I nearly dropped my phone. It moved too smoothly, its motions eerily fluid, like it was gliding rather than walking. The light from my nightstand barely illuminated it, but I could see its outline. A man, tall, dressed in dark clothes. But something was off. I squinted, my fingers tightening around my phone. The way it moved, the shape of it. Then the figure stepped closer, and I saw its face. I stopped breathing. It was me, standing at the edge of the bed, staring down at my sleeping form. My mind screamed that this was impossible. It had to be a trick, some kind of overlay or corrupted footage. But the figure moved, leaning closer, watching me. Then slowly it reached out and placed a hand on my sleeping self's chest. My real chest tightened as I watched. Couldn't look away, couldn't move. The other me stood perfectly still, pressing down ever so slightly. And then, my sleeping body twitched. Not like shifting in my sleep. Not a normal reflex. It was a struggle. Like something was holding me down. A small, choked sound escaped my throat. My fingers trembled over the phone screen. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a mistake. Then, at 2:51 a.m., my sleeping body's eyes snapped open. Wide, terrified, staring directly into the camera. The screen glitched. Then, the recording stopped. I stared at my phone screen, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The recording ended at 2:51 a.m., cutting off the moment my sleeping self's eyes snapped open. I checked the time. 11:07 p.m. That recording was supposed to happen in 3 hours. A deep, crushing sense of dread settled into my chest. What the hell had I just watched? A glitch? Some impossible pre-recording? My mind scrambled for logic, but logic didn't apply here, because I saw myself standing over the bed. And worse, my sleeping self had woken up and looked right at the camera. I opened the footage again, rewound it, and watched frame by frame. I needed to make sense of it to disprove what I'd seen. The door opening, the figure stepping inside, the way it glided, not walked, the moment it pressed its hand on my chest. I paused there, stared at the screen. Its fingers pressed firmly against my sleeping body's shirt, sinking slightly like it had weight. This thing was real. I forced myself to keep watching. At 2:51 a.m., my sleeping self's eyes flew open. They weren't groggy or half-lidded. They were wide, panicked, like I had just woken from a nightmare. But the worst part? The other me didn't react. It didn't move, didn't flinch. It just kept pressing down. And then, the sleeping me started gasping. My chest heaved. My body twitched. My hands clawed at the sheets. I was struggling. I was suffocating. The other me just stood there, motionless, watching, waiting. I tried to pause the video, but my fingers were slick with sweat. I fumbled, my breath ragged, my vision tunneling. At 2:51 and 36 seconds a.m., my struggling slowed. At 2:51 and 42 seconds a.m., my arms fell limp. At 2:51 and 50 seconds a.m., my body stopped moving entirely. My sleeping self was dead still. And only then, only when I stopped moving, did the other me finally turn. Slowly, so slowly, it looked directly into the camera. Its eyes locked onto mine. Its lips curled into the faintest, barely there smile. And then, the video cut out. I threw my phone across the room. I shot up from bed, my whole body trembling, my chest rising and falling in panicked gasps. No, 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 no. That couldn't be real. That couldn't be real. But the footage was still there. The folder still existed. The timestamp hadn't changed. In less than 3 hours, this was going to happen. And if I fell asleep, I might not wake up. A sharp, sudden knock at the door made me flinch so hard my knees almost buckled. I turned, heart slamming against my ribs. Another knock. Slow. Deliberate. Too soft. I stepped closer, every inch of my body screaming at me not to open it. I swallowed hard and reached for my phone again, hands still trembling. I opened the security app and switched to the front door camera feed. The screen loaded, and my stomach dropped. There was someone standing at my door. Not moving, not knocking again, just standing, waiting. My head spun. My mouth went dry. The figure on the screen was wearing my clothes, had my build, had my face. I was standing outside my own apartment, and then, as if it could see me watching, it lifted a hand and waved. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. On my phone screen, the security feed showed me standing outside my apartment door. My exact height, my clothes, my face, and it was waving at me. I stumbled backward, my pulse slamming against my ribs. The room felt wrong. The air thick and charged like a storm was about to break inside my apartment. The thing on the screen dropped its hand and took a step closer. I heard it, a soft shuffle outside my door. This wasn't the footage from the folder. This wasn't something happening later. This was happening right now. I glanced at the time. 11:24 p.m. The recording showed this thing inside my apartment at 2:47 a.m. That meant it was going to get in. Somehow, I wasn't safe. I turned back to the phone, my breathing ragged, fingers shaking as I switched to the hallway feed. I needed to see if anyone else was out there. The screen flickered. I expected the usual dim view of my apartment's corridor. Maybe a neighbor's door. Maybe the faint overhead light buzzing. Instead, the camera was glitching. A distorted, stuttering image flashed across the screen. My hallway empty 1 second, then completely black the next. Then, frame by frame, something moved past the camera. Not walking, not running, just appearing. A figure, dark, tall, not shaped like me, but like something stretched into my form. The video skipped forward again, jumping ahead by milliseconds at a time. The thing twitched and stuttered in and out of existence, moving closer to my apartment. I couldn't even see its face. It was just wrong. Then the image stabilized. The hallway was empty again. My throat went dry. My stomach clenched with nausea. It wasn't outside anymore. I checked the front door camera again. The other me was gone. I ran. I bolted to the door, grabbing the deadbolt, twisting it, locked. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I checked the peephole. Dark. I flipped the hall light on, peered through again. Still dark. It didn't make sense. The hallway should have been visible. I should have been able to see my neighbor's doors, the dim light above the elevator. Something. But it was just blackness. A heavy, endless void where my hallway used to be. A sharp, metallic clack sounded from behind me. My whole body jerked. My skin went cold. Came from inside my apartment. I turned slowly, my breath catching in my throat. The closet door. The one that had been slightly open before. Now it was wide open. The room felt different, like the air had thickened, pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't alone. And then, my phone vibrated in my hand. A new security alert. I didn't want to look. Didn't want to see what was on the screen. But my hand moved anyway, my body acting on instinct. Motion detected in the bedroom. I opened the app. The bedroom feed flickered. And then, frame by frame, I saw it. The closet door opening on its own. Nothing pushing it. Nothing pulling it. Just slowly, methodically widening. The darkness inside swallowed everything. Then, a shape emerged from the closet. No, it didn't step out. It slid out. Pulled by something unseen, like it was being dragged against its will. It was me. The same twisted version of myself I had seen in the recording from the future. The same thing that had stood at my door moments ago. The way it moved, unnatural, limbs stiff, head jerking slightly as it straightened. Then it turned toward the camera. And grinned. The same expression from before, that slow, knowing stretch of lips. The room around me grew colder. Then, the thing on the screen raised its hand. I saw it happen on the feed first. Then I felt it. A light touch. Fingers grazing the back of my neck. I screamed. Spun around. The room was empty. The closet stood open, dark and yawning. But nothing was inside. Or at least, nothing I could see. My phone buzzed one last time. A new notification. Live feed disabled. Device offline. I ran. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and threw myself out of the apartment, slamming the door behind me. I didn't stop. Didn't look back. Didn't dare. I ran to my car. Started the engine with shaking hands. Then, I checked the time. 2:47 a.m. The exact moment the recording had started. I looked up at my apartment window, and something was standing there, watching me. A silhouette. Still. Unmoving. It was me. And then, as I watched, it raised its hand, and slowly, deliberately waved goodbye. I check my security camera footage every morning. Not because I expect to see anything unusual, just out of habit. A ritual to make sure everything is normal. But this morning, I saw something I couldn't explain. First, the recordings looked fine. The usual late-night clips. Shadows from passing cars. The occasional shift in the blinds. Then, at 3:12 a.m., I saw him. The footage was from my kitchen camera, positioned in the corner, facing the glass patio door. The timestamp flickered in the corner as I watched myself step into the frame, barefoot, rubbing my eyes like I had just woken up. I didn't remember getting up last night, but that wasn't the worst part. As I scrolled through the footage, my tired mind barely processing what I was seeing, I noticed it. The reflection in the glass door. Behind me, there were two of us. A second silhouette, slightly out of focus, standing right behind me. My heart slammed into my ribs. I rewound the video, played it again. The shadow moved when I moved, but it wasn't me. It was off. Slightly taller. The arms too long. The head tilted at an unnatural angle. I watched as my reflection yawned, stretched, just like I had. But the extra silhouette behind me stayed perfectly still. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Then suddenly the reflection shifted. Not like a person. Not naturally. It glitched. A flickering, stuttering movement like a bad signal cutting in and out. Then, the screen froze, and when the footage resumed a second later, the extra silhouette was gone. I sat up in bed, my pulse hammering. I stared at the video, my mind racing. Maybe a trick of the light, a camera malfunction, but something deep inside me knew better. I checked the next clip. 3:13 a.m. The kitchen was empty. No me. No shadow. Then, just as I was about to close the app, I saw it. In the reflection of the glass door. A handprint, pressed against the glass. From the inside, I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my ears. A handprint, pressed against the inside of the glass patio door. I didn't put it there, and I lived alone. The footage showed me leaving the kitchen at 3:12 a.m. The room was empty by 3:13 a.m., but at 3:14 a.m., a faint, smudged print appeared on the glass. I felt a cold, creeping sensation crawl up my spine. I had to check. I threw back the covers, climbed out of bed, and crept toward the kitchen. The apartment was still, unnervingly quiet. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven, as I approached the patio door. The glass reflected the dim glow of the streetlights outside. I hesitated, my fingers hovering just above the surface, my breath fogging against it. Then, I saw it. The handprint was still there. My stomach twisted. I lifted my hand and pressed my palm against it. It didn't match. My fingers were shorter. Whoever or whatever left this mark had longer fingers than me. I stumbled back, my heart thudding painfully against my ribs. I grabbed my phone, reopened the security app, and fast-forwarded the footage. I needed to know what happened after 3:14 a.m. The kitchen remained empty for several minutes. The smudged handprint didn't change. Then, at 3:21 a.m., the feed glitched. The video stuttered, freezing on a single frame, a silhouette standing in the reflection of the glass door. Inside the kitchen. Not outside. Inside. Right where I had been standing moments earlier. I couldn't see its face. Just a tall, dark shape, its features blurred and distorted. The screen flickered. The next frame, the silhouette was gone. But the handprint remained. A wave of nausea rolled through me. My hands trembled as I backed away from the patio door. I needed to leave. Now. I turned toward the hallway, reaching for my keys on the counter. Then, a new notification popped up on my phone. Motion detected in the living room. I didn't want to look, didn't want to know, but my thumb moved on its own, tapping the alert. The live feed opened. The couch, the coffee table, the dim glow of the television reflecting off the glass door. For a second, everything looked normal. Then I saw it. The extra silhouette was back, standing behind the couch, completely still, watching, waiting. And then, as I stared in horror, it moved. Not like a person, not like something with bones or muscles. It twitched. A sharp, unnatural jerk of its head, like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. Then, the screen froze, a distorted blur. The next frame, the silhouette was gone. But the camera's microphone picked up something else. A sound. Faint, low whisper. Turn around. Turn around. The whisper slithered through my phone's speaker. Low, distant, but too close at the same time. My entire body locked up. I was standing in my dark kitchen, the dim light from outside barely illuminating the countertops. The glass patio door loomed behind me, its smudged handprint still pressed against the surface. And now, something was in the living room. I hadn't moved, hadn't turned around, but I felt it. That horrible, suffocating sensation, like something was waiting for me to notice it. My fingers tightened around my phone. My pulse hammered in my ears. I didn't want to turn. I didn't want to see. But I had to. I had to. I took a slow, shaking breath and turned my head just enough to see past the kitchen counter. And there it was, standing in the dim light of the living room. The extra silhouette. It wasn't a shadow anymore. It was real. Tall. Thin. Too still. Too wrong. It stood behind my couch, half in the light, half in darkness, its head tilted just like in the camera footage. And then, in a way that shouldn't have been possible, it grinned. Wide. Too wide. Like its mouth was stretching farther than humanly possible. My legs nearly gave out beneath me, my hands slick with sweat. I stumbled backward, my hips slamming into the counter. The thing took a step forward. Not a normal step. A gliding motion, smooth and soundless. Like it wasn't walking, but shifting closer. I barely choked down a scream. I turned and ran. Through the hallway. Toward my front door. My hands clawed at the locks, twisting, fumbling, yanking the handle. Behind me, a soft, shuffling movement. It was coming. I threw open the door and lunged outside. The second I crossed the threshold, my body collapsed onto the floor. The hallway lights burned bright above me. I gasped for breath, my head spinning. My entire body ached, as if something heavy had just been lifted off my chest. For a long moment I didn't move. Then, slowly, I turned back toward my apartment. The door stood wide open. The living room beyond it was dark and empty. No silhouette, no shadow, nothing. But something felt off. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, opening the security app one last time. The living room feed flickered to life. The couch, the coffee table, the glass patio door. No figure. But in the reflection of the glass door, barely visible, a handprint, a second one, pressed against the glass, from the inside. And as I stared, heart pounding, the hand slowly dragged downward, leaving behind a long, streaking smear, like something inside the apartment was watching me leave. And it was waiting for me to come back.